Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Blessings, good evening. Somebody asked me the question today, which we hear almost weekly as monks. When I meditate, when should I contemplate and when should I watch the breath? I think almost every meditator who's ever been probably has that question. Ajahn Chah's answer was always something in the vein of, when you're peaceful enough, then contemplate. Because when your mind is not very peaceful, you can't contemplate anyway. You need to develop more calm or mindfulness. So it kind of answers itself like that. But if you think about it, I think when we practice the Dhamma, there'll be plenty of times when we need to contemplate things, think about things. When we say contemplate, we mean try to think in a reasoned way about something. So it could be about decision we've got to make, whether it's a good thing to do for our happiness or it's going to be a bad thing that creates suffering. Just consider our actions or our speech. Or in a more determined way, or more concentrated way, when you're meditating, contemplation can be just observing, knowing phenomena rising and ceasing, knowing phenomena as subject to causes and conditions, as not self, but just watching and observing as much as actually thinking. Indeed, when your mind is peaceful, you might not need to think at all. But that doesn't mean to say at other times thought is not useful in the practice. And we're not always in deep states of meditation, even if you meditate regularly. So we have to be ready for different situations, different parts of the practice that come up. When you're just thinking about your health or work that you do, you need to use thought. But also we can introduce the Dhamma into these ordinary subjects, spending money, earning money, spending money. What am I going to eat today? Where am I going to eat? What clothes am I going to wear? Because if you're a monastic, it's easy. You only have one set of clothes. You don't have to think about that much at all. That's probably why the Buddha said, just have a set of robes if you become a monk. Shaven head, set of robes. That reduces an awful lot of thought. If you're a layperson, maybe just pause and think in your life since you've been born till now, how much time have you spent thinking about clothes? What clothes am I going to wear today? Depending whether you're going to work or you're going to the beach or whatever. And when your clothes wear out, what new clothes am I going to buy? When am I going to wash my clothes? Who's going to wash my clothes? Can I get someone else to wash them for me? Just something as simple as clothing has probably taken up hours and hours of thought. And then, of course, when you're not very mindful, it leads on to a lot of opinions and likes and dislikes. I like my clothes, I don't. I'm bored, I'm interested. But thinking about things in terms of Dhamma, It could be something very mundane like putting on clothes or wearing clothes. But the Buddha said, well, always try to come back to the very important truths of things. So like with clothing, the most important thing is, well, why do we wear clothes? It's to keep warm or to keep the sun and the rain off, to look, you might say, respectable, to stop us feeling embarrassed, which we would probably feel if we walked around naked. Clothes have a use. And everything we're involved with in life is like that. Food, clothing, accommodation, work, travel. Part of our contemplation is just reminding ourselves why we're doing something, asking ourselves questions and then reviewing. Why am I doing this? Is it worth it? Is it helpful? Am I creating suffering for me, suffering for others? So on every level we can learn to contemplate wisely and use contemplation. But where it will be most effective in meditation is when the mind is calm, peaceful, and mindful. We've been celebrating 24 years of this monastery here in Buddha Bodhivana Monastery near Melbourne. That's a contemplation in itself. Why do you build a monastery? Well, actually, you don't really build a monastery. This was originally a piece of forest land, and nobody lived here and there were no buildings. But then it was offered to become a monastery. So I guess people have the idea of what a monastery is in their mind, say a place where Buddhist monks or nuns live and practice, maybe with certain buildings like a meditation hall, a kitchen, some accommodation, kutis, huts in the forest. So people have an idea, but say if this monastery is typical, and it's certainly typical of many monasteries I've lived in, this monastery just started as forest, with nothing else other than trees and bushes and animals. But once you are invited to come and live here, which is what I was invited to come and live in this bit of forest. It was offered, we say it was offered to the Sangha. Then gradually, because you live in a place where you need facilities, you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to be protected from the weather, you need a place to meditate, and then you have more people coming, so you need more of all these things, and so on. So gradually you build a monastery. So all of that takes some contemplation, some thought. Say, me personally, when I first came here, I didn't have a real master plan, but I just had a basic idea, well, we'll need some place to stay, place to meditate, place to eat. And forest monasteries in Thailand, where I was trained, they often follow a fairly similar pattern. You have an eating hall, a meditation hall, maybe can either be one building or two, kitchen, toilet, shower, place to bathe. Even that's not guaranteed. In my early years as a monk, we'd bathe in ponds and at wells with no buildings at all. So even that is not a guarantee. But gradually, in your mind, you have different ideas of what monastery should be. With the help of lay support and other Sangha members, maybe you build these things. That all takes some contemplation, how to set up a monastery, how to make use of the land or the place you've got, how big it is, how small it is, just depends. So everything we're involved with in life needs some contemplation, and we can use all of that as an opportunity to learn Dhamma. When we're meditating, of course, but also just as you interact with the world, how do you interact with the world skillfully? One of the teachings I always remembered from Ajahn Chah is, what do you bring to this world and what do you take away from this world? You're born into the world, eventually you die. What do you bring, what do you take away? Do you make the world a better place living here? during your life? Do you make it a worse place? What impact on the world do you have? So reflecting on, say, this monastery after 24 years, hopefully it's had some good impacts on the people who have made use of it, come to live here temporarily or long term. There's only one monk who's been here the whole 24 years. Pretty obvious who. But some monks have lived here many years. Some monks have lived here and then gone off to live in other monasteries. It's a reflection. What do you get out of the monastery? What do you give back? How do you use a monastery? It's a place to further the practice of Dhamma. So one thing you might learn living in a monastery is how to contemplate. Really, you can learn to contemplate at home as well. It's just often people complain, don't they? They say, oh, the lay life is so complicated. Everything happens so fast and out of control. You don't have time to contemplate anything. You've got to rush around, go to work, look after family, look after yourself maybe. Even though, if we're honest, I think we spend a lot of time with other things, more trivial stuff, entertainments and sleep and all kinds of things like that. Really, wherever your mind is and wherever you are, you've got a chance to contemplate things, to understand things better, to reason things through, to observe, to learn. That's all possible wherever you are, because wherever you go, your mind goes with you. A monastery is probably a good place for contemplation because it's set up for that. It's a fairly simple place. This monastery, although we've been here 24 years, it's still a fairly quiet forest. We have buildings and facilities, but they're fairly straightforward, simple buildings. And the monks living here, we have a lot of time to sit, walk meditation, go about our business and contemplate as we're doing that. A lot of the activities of Buddhist monks are fairly, you might say, contemplative, in that they don't stir the mind up a lot or complicate life too much. Yes. Making a robe, sewing a robe, washing a robe, sweeping leaves, chanting, reading suttas, meditating, sitting, walking meditation, all the kind of activities we do around the monastery, one can quite easily contemplate as you go. One of the contemplations I use a lot is impermanence. Just whatever you're doing, you observe there's always a start and a finish to things. And that's the same in the lay life. You go to work and then later on you come home. You start a job and then you finish it. You start a task and then you finish it. Some jobs are maybe made up of many different smaller tasks that run together to become your job or your occupation or something you're doing. Maybe each task requires some contemplation. What am I doing? What's the purpose of this? How to do it well? How to do it successfully? But the bigger picture maybe, or the picture of bringing the Dhamma into that, the contemplating the Dhamma is also that, this task has a beginning, has an end. If you meet people, you meet them and then you separate, you go your separate ways. Even if you live together, you're not spending all your time with each other. You meet together and then you go away again. There's always a start and a finish. This is impermanence, isn't it? Much of our life we're involved with the world around us, whether you're building a monastery or you're building a home or you're going to work, you interact with the world through your senses, you talk to people, you make things, do things, go here, go there. All of this is subject to impermanence. If you bring the Dhamma to bear on those activities, you can say, oh, this begins, this ends, and you can use that to help understand things better. Everyone you meet today or any day, one day everyone you meet will be dead, will be gone. And that's not to make things morbid or depressing, it's just to be aware of the truth. We're not here forever. The Buddha encouraged us to use that one, like say you're getting angry with someone at work or wherever you are, and you're suffering. You would just pause and reflect or contemplate. One day that person will be gone, I'll be gone. There'll be other people here doing this job or in this place. There'll be another monk sitting here teaching. There'll be another audience listening. What's the point of hanging on to this anger? If we're all going to die, why ruin things by holding on to anger while we're alive? You don't even have to wish your enemies to be dead, because they're going to die anyway. Or the other way around, when you fall in love with people or like people or want things, this is also impermanence, isn't it? You won't be together with the people you love forever. Remind yourself of that, because it kind of wakes you up to the truth, doesn't it? Often the people we love we take for granted. We just assume they'll be there all the time and they'll like us and they'll do what we want and we'll go places together and things will happen. But that's not true. They won't be there forever. We won't be here forever. They won't be there forever, because life is impermanent. Just that simple contemplation brought into your daily life may give you a whole new angle on life, on work, on the relationships you have. Because you realize, nothing stays the same. We won't be here forever. Just helps your mind to step back a little bit. And you don't need to be meditating or in a state of samadhi to do that. You just contemplate in a very ordinary, relaxed way. At times when you've got a moment, when you're sitting down having your food, or you're sitting in a car or on a train or something going somewhere, just reflect, everything changes. Nothing lasts, nothing stays the same. Of course, when you meditate, that contemplation can become very refined, very intense, and that will tend to have a more profound effect on your mind, which is why we do it. So when you meditate, you're developing strong mindfulness, clear comprehension, and your aim is to let go of the 5 hindrances. So of course, when your mind is less distracted, not caught up in greed, anger, worries, sleepiness, doubt, then it's in its best state to contemplate. So when they say, when should I contemplate? And Ajahn Chah says, when you're peaceful. Well, that's what he really means, the best time to contemplate. When the 5 hindrances have disappeared and your mind is just calm, knowing the present moment, knowing itself in the present moment, undistracted, unwavering. Mind and body are still, peaceful. That's the best time to contemplate. But it's not the only time, it's just the best time. Your mind is in the best state because it's clear. And when the mind is clear, undistracted, then of course you can look and observe and understand things better. I remember one of the first sort of insights I had into contemplation when I was a newly ordained monk. I was talking to a more senior monk who meditated a lot and seemed to be very peaceful. He was telling me about one insight experience he had when he was walking meditation in the forest. We live in the forest, so that's nothing strange about that. And he was just walking back and forth for a few hours and his mind became very calm, concentrated. And when he became really calm, he had to stand still. That's another thing about the stillness of the mind. Even if you're peaceful when you're walking meditation, if you get really peaceful, your mind, your attention goes inwards, so you have to stop. You pause your walking and you just stand still, maybe close your eyes, and your mind goes inwards. And maybe you completely lose awareness of your body, even though you're standing there. Maybe you stop paying attention to sounds and the things going on around you, and you're just with the mind itself. So even standing up, you can do that. And this monk, he said, his mind went inwards and he kind of became unaware of his body and unaware of the sounds of the forest and what was going on around him. It's just with the mind itself. And he was contemplating impermanence. So any slight movement of mind, wanting to know anything else, to think anything or remember anything, he observed that as a form of craving. He said, oh, impermanence. And as soon as he noted it as impermanence, the desire to think, to remember things, to think about things, disappeared. So obviously his mindfulness was very, very strong, very continuous. And so impermanence, he said, it's like a bit like a sword. It kind of cuts off all the craving that's arising in your mind at that time. And you're just in the present moment, but you can also contemplate, meaning he was aware and able to let go of whatever was arising in his mind. And then suddenly he said he had this vision of the forest around him, but this is in his mind's eye, not looking outwardly with his physical eye. This was his mind's eye. He had a vision of the forest around him, more or less the same trees and bushes and things around him, but they were all dead. The trees had all died, all the leaves had died, all the bushes had died. So it was like he was standing in a dead forest. And in his mind he knew, of course, the forest outside was still full of life, animal life, and the leaves on the trees were green, and the trees were healthy generally. But this was the forest in his mind. It was all dead, as if someone had poisoned it all, or somehow everything had suddenly aged and become a dead place. And he said he even opened his eyes to look, and of course, the forest was green and lush as normal. Then he closed his eyes, and the forest he was seeing in his mind's eye was all dead. That was just a vision, what we call a nimitta, a vision that didn't last so long, but it was very powerful, very intense. The clarity of it, he said, was very crystal clear to his mind's eye. And he had this sense of everything that is alive will die, whether it's animals or humans or trees or anything in this world that is born must die. And he said the result of that contemplation was mind felt very, very calm, a much deeper, profound state of calm than before, but also a sense of kind of waking up to the truth. Of course, that was just one experience he had in meditation. Eventually, he started walking meditation again, that vision passed. But he said it stayed with him for a long time, this sense of kind of sobering awareness of the impermanence of life, and that nothing you touch, nothing you're involved with will last. So you might say that's contemplation at the most refined level, or one of the most refined levels. Seeing impermanence, and the vision was just a kind of an expression of his insight into impermanence. But it comes out of the same thing that us just going around our business, whether we are a layperson or a monastic, just reflecting on the changing nature of our body, the people around us, the world around us. Everything begins, everything ends. Probably what the main difference is when somebody has that experience in meditation, their mindfulness is very strong then. The mind is very clear, the hindrances are not bothering them. Normally our contemplations don't go very deep because they don't last that long, because you have a few moments of insight or thinking or seeing some aspect of Dhamma, which is good, but then the hindrances start to creep back in or flood back into your mind, and you're distracted and thinking about more mundane stuff back into the world. And it can be very frustrating. 1 minute you're about to get enlightened, and the next minute you're back thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight. And sometimes it's kind of strange, how can your mind be vary so quickly or go from one extreme to another. But it can. You can be seeing the Dhamma very clearly one moment and just back with very ordinary mental states the next. Greed, anger and delusion come flooding back in. And that's why we have to keep practicing, keep doing it. What did the Buddha say? Well, the Buddha compared the world and the allure, the attraction of the world. He said it's like a royal chariot, which in those days would be probably a good example of what people aspire to, a sign of wealth, status. If you own a chariot and horses, then you're somebody. That would be the equivalent of being somebody today, or being very wealthy, or CEO, very successful, very famous. The sort of worldly dhammas that we all aspire to, normally speaking, in the world, has an allure, and we keep going out to work to earn money, keep trying to build ourselves up, get more wealth, more assets, know more people, get more connections, look better, dress better. And that's the way of the world, and we keep getting sucked in, and that's why the insights don't last that long. Because you have your insight, but then very quickly you're planning your next business deal, or your next bit of work, or your next way to get something that you want. We just keep going back to the world. When we built the monastery, well, one of the reflections we had, one of the contemplations was, well, this is a place for going away from the world. You're still in the world, obviously you have to practice from within the world. There's no way around that. But it's a place where you can come and practice and meditate to go away from the world with Dhamma, with wisdom and insight. And that will come partly through contemplation, partly through sila and restraint and mindfulness, but partly through contemplation of the Dhamma, seeing the drawbacks, the weaknesses, the limitations of the world. Even the royal chariot breaks a wheel or gets old and starts to fall apart, or something happens to it, or it has a crash. Even chariots probably crash. And the equivalent for everything else that we associate with success and wealth and status in the world, everything has its drawbacks, has its weaknesses and limitations. And that's something we have to contemplate, isn't it? Whatever you wish for in the world won't last. You can't take it with you when you die. You can't even use it all when you're here. Most people have more possessions and more wealth than they can even use in one lifetime. What we tend to do is store it away for a rainy day, and the rainy day never comes, and then we die. That's why the Buddha encouraged us to practice dana, sharing, giving, charity, helping others, because most of us have more than we can use anyway. Even when you practice dana, then the world comes sneaking into our thinking, doesn't it? So you offer a little bit of dana, offer some food to monks, or do a bit of charity work or something, which is good. But then you start thinking, what am I going to get for this? So some people, they offer a plate of rice and they already want a 5-star heavenly mansion in return. You think about it, if that's the way you're thinking, you offer dana of any kind of charity, generosity, but you're seeking something in return. What are you actually doing? Are you actually letting go of your attachments, your selfishness, your greed? Or are you increasing your greed? You offer one small thing, but maybe you want this big reward. You're actually increasing your own greed as you do it. So it's not even a guarantee that practicing generosity will reduce your greed. It may actually increase it if you have the wrong understanding. And we're often like that. We help somebody thinking, oh, I'll get something back for this. We give, but wanting something in return. Even meditation can be like that. If I meditate, maybe I'll become really successful in what I do. I'll become even wiser and more knowledgeable, or I'll become a better person, or I'll get something or other, and there's a particular knowledge or quality of mind that we're aiming for. Even meditation, we tend to have a sort of materialistic or a desire to acquire things from the meditation. Some people are just into psychic phenomena, meditate to be able to read people's minds or have certain visions or whatever. This is the way our mind is. We keep going back to the world. Or building monasteries. You build a monastery, maybe you want your monastery to be really beautiful or big or have very refined artwork. Still, it's pulling us back to the world if we're not careful. So contemplation is often the remedy for this. It's the medicine, the remedy and the preventative. And we have to remind ourselves or contemplate, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Whether it's meditation, dana, helping people, listening to the Dhamma, or just going to work. Remind yourself why you're going to work. What's the real purpose of it? Are we born just to work to pay the bills and then die? Or is there a higher purpose? We got more opportunity to develop ourselves as human beings. Hear the Dhamma, practice the Dhamma, practice precepts, meditate, train in mindfulness. As human beings, we have great potential, but we have to remind ourselves of that point. Otherwise, we just tend to drift through life, don't we? Drift along, take things easy, the easy way, the path of least resistance. It's another reason why people often don't want to practice Dhamma, because it requires a certain amount of resistance. You have to get up when you'd rather just lie there doing nothing. You have to restrain your anger when you'd rather let go. You have to restrain your greed when you'd rather indulge it. The Dhamma practice is not always easy. Sometimes it can even be painful. You meditate, maybe you've got pain in your legs or your back. But there's always more we can do. We have to develop our patience and our ability to put effort in. One of the first older monks I visited when I was a novice monk, Lumpur Kamkaning, he lived in a cave on the banks of the Mekong River between Thailand and Laos. Not too many kilometres away from where I lived. And everyone in the area I live thought, he's an arahant, he's got the greatest mind in the area, let's go and see him. So we were always planning to go and see him. So one day we went to see him. They told us some of the stories of his life story, and he used to sit meditation without moving for hours and days until he got sores on the backs of his legs and on his backside, simply from sitting so long. And then he'd also do standing meditation, and he'd just stand and stand. He wouldn't take food or drink, he'd just stand and go into samadhi. And some people thought he overdid it. Maybe he did. In the end, only he knows that. But they believe he became enlightened, so perhaps it was all worth it. But, if you haven't done that, then, the normal level of practice we do, we get a little bit of pain and already, I can't meditate, too much pain in my legs. I can't meditate, I feel too tired. My legs are sore, my back's sore. There's this problem, it's too hot, too cold. It doesn't take much to put us off doing something good like meditation, and we'd rather go and sleep or talk to someone or eat something or look at our phone or whatever it is. So the next time you're wondering why you're not enlightened, that's probably the answer. Too many distractions, too many desires that we follow, and not enough effort in the practice. Anyway, we're celebrating 24 years of the monastery, so many people have put forth much effort here in the practice of Dhamma, and we hope that there'll be many more years and many more people putting effort into their Dhamma practice too. But for tonight, I'll just say this much, and afterwards there'll be a chance if anyone has any questions. I'll do my best to answer them.